All right, today we're going to review Destinies.
Yep.
Time of Legends. Does it have a thing after it? Destinies, which is a 2 to 4 player game, a story-driven game. It's an RPG, and it's competitive.
My lucky dog.
Lucky Duck.
Lucky Duck.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
They made Chronicles of Crime.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Or you can also play 2-on-2. So it's actually a 1 to 3 player game. I'm sorry. It's a 1 to 3 player game. Is what it says on the box, but there's an expansion that allows you to play up to 4, and then it's a 2 versus 2.
Yeah.
But it is a story-based, competitive RPG app-led game. So let's take a look at how it's played and the components, and then we'll tell you what we think. Okay, did it. All right, so we're just going to rip through this really quick because everyone's seen this already on another channel probably, but this is what the game looks like set up on the table. All the players are going to have these player mats here. Your character is indicated here. And then these white dice are your sort of main dice that you have, yeah. And you have a purple die that you get each turn, and it has this symbol on it here.
You can get up to 3, but they have to replenish after you use them.
Correct. So, as we said earlier, this is an app-led game, so I'm going to try to get this in focus, but when you hit new game here, let's start from the main menu. I do have it set up, but so when you click, there are 3 expansions. I think only 1 is in the app as of today, but the other ones are going to be uploaded. But you pick your expansion, so we're going to go with the main game. We're going to do scenario 1, which is like the tutorial. There's an update I haven't downloaded, but we're going to click play. And it's going to ask you your game mode. So we'll go normal here, 2 to 3 players. Now it's going to read sort of the prologue of the story, and this is actually narrated, which is good. This is, I believe, the one part of the game that is narrated. So it's going to set it up. It's a dark night in the dead of winter, terrible loud resounding howl. Hit OK. Now it's going to ask you which character you want. You can take one of 3 in any scenario. So let's play as the witch and the noble. Hit OK. Now it's going to tell us how to set the noble up. So intelligence, dexterity, and power, we have rankings for each. I didn't set them corresponding to what they actually said, but you're going to take these wooden cubes here and place them according to what the app tells you. That's going to set up your statistics. Then you're going to get 1 gold to start and 1 item. So there is a item deck in the game. There's a lot of cards too, but there's all sorts of different items. There's horses and rosaries and herbs and kind of your standard fantasy fare. Each item's going to have a barcode, so you can at times decide you want to use an item in the app by scanning the barcode on it. So let's say we got a torch. You put it right here. There's little slots in the character card to tuck your items in and underneath. And then each item has a little special ability at the bottom. For example, the torch can give you a bonus in each test in this turn if you discard it. So items do give you interesting abilities. Okay, so we're going to set up both characters according to what they say. Did everyone take their starting? Yep. Now it's going to say progress is saved automatically. That's really nothing. Then it's going to tell you what map tiles that you want to start on, so and who goes on them. So in this particular scenario, you would flip the center tile, so the game has like a fog of war almost thing it's trying to do, where it won't show you exactly what's going on, but it'll tell you where to put characters. So we're going to put the bishop in the church, and it doesn't really matter where on the card he goes as long as you know that this character is on this card to interact with. You hit OK. Then it'll tell you, and there is a little flavor text here at the bottom, but it'll tell you what cards to put out, which we have these already put out according. And then it's going to tell you to refresh an effort die. So you always get the 2 white die to roll, But once per turn, you get these purple die, so you're going to continue to pile these up until you decide to spend them, and once you spend them, they're effectively going to be gone until you get more on your next turn. So now on your turn, you can take 3 actions per turn, and your actions are basically going to be move and interact. So if I wanted to, I could move to this card here. Oh, that's not me, actually. That's the pastor or whoever. So if this is my character, I can talk to this guy since I start on this tile. I can move to here. And whenever you unlock a new tile, that ends your movement. So I can move to here. I can flip this. I'll go in the app. I'll pick that tile. I'll say, yes, I want to explore it. It'll flip it. Then it will show me all the other tiles around it. So you'll keep kind of building out the land as you go. And then it'll give me some of these, which are, this is like a point of interest. So I'm putting a point of interest down. It's an inn. Many find comfort at the inn, always warm and welcoming. Hit OK. There's character here. There's a mayor's house, so other points of interest. So now the map is built out further than what it started at. I would move my character to here, and I can take another action. So now since I explored, I would be having to talk to one of these people as my next action. You get 3 actions or 2?
I thought it was 2.
I think you only get 2 actually. So you can move and explore or talk. You can talk. You can do those few things. So basically, well, what are you actually trying to do? Well, every character has a back of their card, and I don't want to really spoil it here, but there's 2 ways you can beat each scenario. So that little flavor text at the beginning is telling us kind of what's particular troubles are plaguing this land that we're exploring here. And your character has essentially 2 ways they can win. They have the white victory condition or the purple victory condition, and they're kind of represented by each of these scan things. So if you ask someone about your path, I guess, your destiny, which is kind of what the game's named after, they'll tell you what you might need to do to pull off the white or the purple victory condition. And I'm not going to spoil it here. I'll cover up the text. But each side is going to have you do a particular amount of things. So you might need to talk to 3 certain people and get them to do a thing, or you might need to steal 3 artifacts, but pretty much something common throughout every scenario of the game is everyone's going to have basically 3 missions, little mini missions they're going to have to do to beat the scenario. So you're going to travel around, you're going to talk to people. It's going to open up further options in the app. You're going to be able to make decisions. You're going to have to do skill rolls. So how do skill rolls work? So if I'm rolling for a blue skill, here, let's talk to this guy. We're going to visit the smith, yes. Okay, so first of all, these are the items he has. So we would go through this item deck and actually find all those items. They correspond to numbers here, and we would set them out, and that's sort of your indication that you can purchase them here. So you can buy different items at the smith with gold, and you'll get gold as you play. But here's going to be our options now as we talk to the smith. The smith is extremely busy, so there's some flavor text here. This is not narrated. But you can ask him about your destiny, and this symbol is showing you that you can scan a card, so you can scan an item as well. You can look at his wares, which is the trade action. Give him a silver item. Not really sure what that... Oh, fortunately for you, he's well-versed in working with silver, so he wants silver items. So if you hit steal something, this is going to be our first kind of test. And you know that because you see that color there. So anytime the app shows you one of these 3 colors on this track here, I'm going to angle down so we can see it. It's going to ask you to take a skill test. So how does that work? Well, we're going to roll these 2 dice that we have, or a combination of the purple ones if we want. And we're trying to meet or exceed the values that are here. So if we rolled a 5 with these two in combination, we would have 1 success. If we got up to an 8, we would have all 3 successes, which is our max. So throughout the game, another thing that's going to happen is you're going to earn these experience tokens, and you can trade them in. I'm trying to get in focus here. Oh, focus. You can trade them in to upgrade your track. So an upgrade would be moving one of these cubes down. So now I can get successes on a 6 here instead of just a 5. So you want all of these tracks to move to the left. Sometimes the game is going to have effects that cause you to move the tracks to the right, which is bad. That makes your character effectively worse at the checks. So you want to get things moving to the left if possible. So we're going to roll dice here now to try to steal something. So I'm going to roll my 2. Let's say maybe I really want this to succeed, so I'm going to also roll my purple. So I got only 3 in the numbers, but I got this symbol, which is an automatic success. So I would get 1 in here. I would hit that, hit confirm. It says busy, keeps a close watch. You can't find an opening. So you kind of failed. You're going to lose one of your green. That means you have to move a green to the right and lose a statistic. Then you're going to exhaust a purple die, so it's a good thing we used it, because if we hadn't, we would have to basically get rid of it. Now these refresh every turn. It's going to tell you can take a new one. But we gain an experience now, so we do get one of these chips, and that's kind of a thing you're going to find throughout the game, that as you do these tests, if you fail a test, you usually get a chip, which allows you to trade in at any time, and you can move these to the left, a total of 2. So it can be any combination. You can move a green, you can move a red. So as the game goes on, you're going to be trading in experience chips to improve your statistics. Sorry that that's all crooked. Experience chips to move your statistics to the left. You're going to try and pass tests, and you're going to try to complete whatever the backside of your card tells you have to do for this scenario. And if you are the first to do that amongst everyone else, you're going to win the game. So everyone's essentially trying to save the town from whatever is befalling it, but you're trying to do it before the people you're competing against. Now, as you go throughout this map here, try to zoom out a little, you're going to see all sorts of cards coming out of the map, and it's going to build out into a big grid. It'll take a decent chunk of your table, maybe 5 by 5 or so, and you're going to be exploring. People are going to move, so characters are going to move around the map, and they're going to uncover new locations you can go to, and basically you're going to interact with them in the app. There is some combat too, but it also takes place just like a skill check in the app. And when your turn is over, when you've done your 2 actions, you're going to hand the app to the next person. They're going to take their turn, and you're going to continue until you've completed the objectives on your card. That's going to trigger sort of an end game stage where you'll have to interact with the same location repeatedly and pass a increasingly difficult series of checks, which will eventually culminate in you defeating whatever the main mission is, or succeeding in the main quest that's outlined at the beginning of the campaign. So that's effectively how you play. There is gold, which you get sometimes in your checks, and you can trade your items at places like the armor that we just saw with the trade action. You can trade your items for gold, purchase new items. That's effectively how the game plays. It's a pretty simple game. All right. Destinies. Time of Legends.
No.
Or something. We got the Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
I got all of it. I was really excited when I heard about this game. We love story-based.
Yeah. I like apps and games a little bit
We
too.
love apps and games, yeah. I'm not a
Especially-
purist. I don't care.
I mostly like when they read the dialogue for you in character voices. I think that's the best thing about them.
Yeah.
And theme music.
Yes.
But when it doesn't do
Immersion.
the dialogue.
I like apps that immerse you.
Yeah. This one was kind of missing some of that dialogue narration.
Okay, let's start with the app. Were there things you liked about the app?
Yep, I like the music. There's a
There's
little bit
music.
of character voices. It leads you through the story and picks up notations of what you've done in the game that affects you later in your decisions. It keeps track of those things for you.
Yeah, it does a little... well, I don't know how this game would work without it. It kind of needs it.
Yeah. But it doesn't have a back button.
There's no back button.
No back button.
It's
no
awful.
History button.
No history, yeah.
And what was the other thing with it? Yeah, missing dialogue for characters, like
No dialogue.
most of them. So you're
Would've
reading
been-
it.
That, I'd say, is the one thing that could have really made this game better.
Yeah.
If it had had dialogue. Because the biggest problem with the app, and honestly might be the biggest problem with the game as a whole, is while you're playing, if it's your turn, you're holding this iPad or whatever you're playing on, and you're doing your thing, and it's got flavor text here, and you can do two things. You can read it every time, which is going to require a ton of reading for one player. So I could say, the smith is extremely busy. Apart from his regular work, the appearance of the beast has caused many frightened townsfolk to seek out protective amulets and charms. Fortunately for you, he is well versed in working with silver. Okay, now that's not a huge deal, but now I have 4 choices I can take here. And everything's supposed to be common knowledge in the game. It says that in the manual. Like, you're not supposed to... Everyone's supposed to know what choices you're picking so they can evaluate their own goals and see if they want to do that too. But in order for me to do that, I then have to not only read that part, but I have to say, okay, I can ask him about my destiny, ask him about an item, take a look at his wares, or give him a silver item. Then I click that. Then I would do that thing and then read that thing. So it's really not immersive for anyone who's not holding this. If it's your turn, it's pretty exciting. But if you're sitting there and you're playing a 4-player game or a 3-player game, even a 2-player game, honestly, you're spending a long time where someone's either reading to you, and after a while, I'll be honest, you don't really care anymore.
Yeah, you kind of zone out part of it, especially since it's repetitive, because sometimes these people, like the smith, isn't going to change, and he'll have the same things over and over again.
Every time, yeah.
And but your outcome can be different, so you have to read that part. So that's kind of one thing we've discussed with some of these app-led games. It's almost better to have a TV and mirror your screen or screencast to it so that you don't have to be sitting there reading it to everybody. Everyone can read it while you're going through it.
Yeah.
But then everyone's just kind of quietly reading to themselves.
What would be good is if they had a professional voice actor here.
The voiceover
who was
would
going,
be...
the smith is extremely busy. And then in the background you hear ching ching.
Yep.
Apart from his regular work, the appearance of the beast, like a Forgotten Waters does.
Yeah, and that's key to really enjoying the app and being immersive.
And immersing you. That would be great. And then
sure.
if you picked an option, it would say, you ask him about your destiny or something.
Yeah.
Then everyone at the table would know what's going on. You don't have to read it. Some people don't like doing that, but it's also not as fun to be read to by Bob across the table as it is a professional voice actor.
Yeah, and they do background noise. Like when you're in the blacksmith, it sounds like hammers hitting molten metals and whatever. And like you go to the inn and it sounds like a busy restaurant.
The sound effects are good. The music is good.
That
the
part's
ambiance
good.
Is good.
The art's really cool. The characters are neat, but it's really, really missing that part for the app.
So I would say that's the main thing. You're going to spend a lot of time in this game watching someone else essentially interact with the app. You're going to spend a lot of time looking at the back of an iPad, waiting for your turn. And there's nothing on the table to really think about because you already know what you're going to do. Yeah, and they throw in some really weird words that no one knows how to pronounce. So that's super fun. Okay, so that's the app. It is what it is. It allows them, I guess, to put new content in the game, which is great. Yeah. There's a ton of items. There's a ton of map cards. The map cards look nice. I mean, the items are cool. So I think there's a lot of room in the game and with the app, so they could expand it and put new stuff into it. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about the app. The components are good.
Yes, and you got the metal coin upgrade.
Yeah, we got the full 9 yards.
Definitely do that.
So we have like the cloth, not cloth, but neoprene, thick neoprene player mats, which are really good. We have the metal coins, which are dope, and then we have a neoprene board where the maps go. It's just a tile, essentially, like a series of tiles.
But one thing we noticed too is the neoprene player mats. There was only 3 of them, so when you have 4 people doing 2-on-2, we were 1 short.
Did we only have 3?
I think so, something like that. And then also those little metal pegs that we put in for our tracking were a little, the wooden ones. Yeah. They were a little springy in the neoprene. Like you try and move it, and like if you pressed it down a little weird, it'd like shoot out.
We have a neoprene. We have a neoprene mat under the neoprene. I think if you were playing on a wooden table, it would be better.
Maybe.
But they're really springy. Yeah, and if you bump them, you don't know where your stats were, and it could ruin the game. Yeah. Which is another thing the app won't do. It won't track anything for you, and it might be nice to actually know what. Yeah,
that would be another thing that'd be really nice because, that happened a lot where all of a sudden, what one was that on? I bumped my player thing, and the little wooden pegs went everywhere.
Okay, what did you think about the game itself?
I really liked it at first. We played like 3 scenarios and I liked it, but by the time we were halfway through the 3rd one, it was starting to get a little repetitive.
You still kind of like it though, don't you?
Yeah.
I feel like you like it way more than me.
I don't like to. Now I'm at the point where playing it less frequently is better because it's more enjoyable then.
Yeah.
At first I wanted to play it a lot more, but then it was just like, it's like last time.
Yeah. It's really interesting because the systems are at first it seems really good. Like the 3 tracks, the rolling dice, the deciding, do I want to use those purple dice? Is this important?
Yeah.
Thinking about your items and what they can do. There isn't a ton of stuff. It's very simple, right? This game is not meant to be complex or deep.
It's not crunchy at all.
No, it's not crunchy. It's meant to be a story, a fun little romp, a very chancy like RPG where you make decisions.
Super user friendly. Like you go in new and you're gonna be fine.
It is. I think the whole game really, it feels to me like the designers wanted to make it about making decisions in the app, like who to talk to, what to do when I get there.
Yeah.
The problem I have with that is that the decisions don't mean anything to me, and I'll explain. You make a decision, and if you did the right thing, you might get what you wanted. If you don't get it right, or if you do something that's not related to your quest, you still get a bonus. Everything you do in the game, you're going to get a bonus for, whether it's experience or gold. You're going to get some little tiddlywink is going to be thrown to you.
Yeah.
And you're just going to keep accumulating those until you either win the game or someone else does. And it never felt to me like at any point in the game I wasn't worried about making the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Like really bad stuff doesn't seem to ever happen to you.
There's no health tracking.
No.
So it's not like you can actually go into melee battle or anything and get hurt. There's nothing that.
You can lose a turn.
Yeah, you can lose a turn. You can lose your experience in your skills. Or just not acquire what you went there for. Or it might take you a few tries.
Yeah.
That's about it.
You can lose a turn. So what's going to happen is you're going to keep playing. You're going to be doing these interactions. It's not really going to matter whether you do the right thing or not. And success and failure is really just, if you fail a test, it's just going to take you another turn to do it. You're still going to do it.
Yeah.
But I guess whoever fails the tests less over a long period of time is going to eventually win, in theory, or if you get lucky and find your 3 things before anyone else.
Yep.
But it doesn't seem like there's really any... Like, the game never at any point makes me feel clever.
Right.
The story is not compelling, ever, really. The choices aren't compelling. And frankly, after a while, I get a little frustrated with the app because I think the success, rolling dice for success is nothing new. Having a tracker that tracks your ability to do that is nothing new. But it is, like, I look at it and I think, oh, this is beautifully simple, right? And I like that. You could play this with people who don't play a lot of games. You could get them into this, like, RPG type style of game. Like, it could be an exciting first step. But in order for that to work, the app would have to provide really interesting choices and do things that surprise you. It never surprised me.
No, not really. And even going into places, you would get clues for something to be somewhere, or something would just be super vague and you'd have no idea where it is. And so you'd go on searching for that thing. Like, you guys were looking for a tarot card at one point.
Yeah.
Looked everywhere, found a couple of them, but then here they just went into the building and nothing. It just was sitting on a table and they grabbed it. Had nothing. Didn't have to do anything for it.
We went in. We needed that third tarot card, and we went into like an old barn that happened to be in a village.
It was abandoned.
Just an abandoned barn. And we're like, search the barn, okay. And there's the tarot card. One of the three main things we needed was just sitting in this barn, and it's kind of makes you feel like, well, that was dumb. I don't know why I did that.
Right.
When you can spend like many turns at other places that would seem like they would have it, and they don't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I guess what I really was missing was, and I don't want to say like mini games, but like when you play a game like Mansions of Madness, which is kind of similar to this. It's got a grid, you move around, you can interact with stuff.
Right.
But in Mansions of Madness, sometimes the game will give you like a mini game you have to play, or the whole goal of the game is like, oh, someone's a traitor now, or somebody murdered someone and you have to gather these clues, or you just have to kill those. Like, it's always different what you have to do. In this game, it's always the same. And that's really what frustrated me. That's why I kept playing it, because I was like, oh, this game has good bones. And that's because it's simple, I think. The mechanisms are simple.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to get out on the table. So many of these games that we play have oodles of cards, and it's so accounty and fiddly. And this game isn't any of that, and it's really refreshing in how light it is.
Right.
But there's just no game here. It's an activity more than a game.
I feel like they could have kept that simplicity and done a little bit more in the game development with the story and the choices and the app.
With the app.
To make it quite a bit better.
To make it different.
Yeah.
Put some mini games in there. Instead of having it be find these three things over and over and over again.
Like a puzzle or something.
Make it a puzzle, or change something about it. Make it a race. Make it a...
Right.
Make it a fight where all of a sudden you can die. I don't know. Put some stake into it so it like means something, because it doesn't really mean anything after a while.
Right.
And I don't know. What did you think about like the end game? You get to that final battle.
Right, and usually it's pretty clear once you make it into your final set of things to do to win the game, there's a clear winner. They're going to win. They just have to stick it out.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of it. You just like, oh, well, I didn't win on this one. Oh, well, I didn't win on this turn. Mm-hmm. And then, within 5, you're going to win the final.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time.
How many times have we played this? Maybe 6?
Yeah.
A bunch. We played it a bunch. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there was a single time where 2 people were into that final at the same time.
No.
So you know who's going to win a lot earlier than the game ends. The game's going to go on for like 20, 30 minutes after you know who's going to win.
Yeah. And
that's a killer.
You're just like, well, I guess I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And you're still trying, but...
Every time we play this game, it's outstayed its welcome.
Yeah.
Every single time. And there aren't any eureka moments, really, which you really want in a game where you're rolling dice. You want to stand up at some point and like cheer, because you just got what you needed. But in this game, even if you didn't, you're going to get a shot on the next turn, and no one really cares.
Yep, it's just the biggest excitement, really, I guess, was not expecting something really cool to win in some skill test, and then you get it, and you're like, ooh, I really like that item. That's awesome. But it doesn't really serve a purpose as much. Mm-hmm. Or it maybe was one of the items you were looking to get or something, and then it's like, oh, okay, sweet. Now I go to the next one.
Right. There are minis in the game, which we love because our channel's
The
big.
minis are really cool.
They're tiny.
They're the tiniest things ever.
And I love it. I love how tiny they are. I wonder if I can even get that info.
You almost have to paint them because otherwise they're so small when they're on the board. It's hard to tell who's who. There we go.
Like, they're so tiny and cool. It's super fun to paint them. So
yeah, they were really
if
fun.
you want to paint like really tiny minis, maybe there's something
they're
here
ridiculously
for you.
small.
Yeah, but honestly, here's Katie's none.
Yep.
If you don't paint these things, you can't tell them apart on the board because they're so small.
Like, unless it's got like their arm in a certain position or they're holding something really identifiable.
Right.
Otherwise, there's just little gray, tiny little people.
Yeah, they're just little gray. It's like Risk almost, like little Risk people. But the detail on these things is great. I would like it if more games would use, like, all my minis don't need to be big and chunky if they're cool like these. So I like the minis. Yeah. If you're willing to paint them, they're super fun.
Yeah.
But if you don't paint them, if you're not into painting minis, you're gonna have a really hard time telling them apart on the table.
Yeah, and the app tracks kind of where you are and stuff. So I mean, if you grab the wrong person, you figure it out eventually. But
yeah,
it is a bit hard to tell them apart.
Yeah, playing this game frustrated me because we got done with the first scenario in the intro, and I was like, oh, that just seemed so like predictable, and nothing really cool happened. And I thought, I bet it's gonna get cool. So we played another one, and then I was like, it's got to get cooler than that. So we played another one. And I like the premise of this game is amazing to me. Like a story-based RPG that's competitive and has skill checks, like with dice. Like, that's my jam.
Yeah, we were really waiting to get that scenario that really kind of blew us away.
We just wanted it to do something, and it didn't. It's like they got the bones of a good game, and then they just stopped working on it. And that's really unfortunate. Because I like Lucky Duck. I think Chronicles of Crime is fantastic. We just played it like 3 days ago, and it was a blast.
Yep. Yeah, that was really fun.
And we played it with a newer gamer who doesn't play a ton of games. Dom, I guess she has played some, but she loved it.
Yeah.
As a new gamer, like, hey, we can play this game. It's like CSI.
Yeah.
And she was so into it. She grabbed the app and she was like driving the whole thing and like getting excited, and it was so cool. Yeah. And that's what I wanted this game to be. I wanted it to be an RPG that you could play with new players. Like that. Like a gateway RPG, and we can play like bigger, chunkier tabletop dungeon crawler kind of games like we like Ameritrash RPGs after you get your feet wet in Destinies. But it wasn't that. It's just never got good.
Well, in Chronicles of Crime, there's so many surprising twists and turns that you don't necessarily expect, and like aha moments.
Yeah.
And like even one where we figured out who the culprit was, and we were arguing with each other like, it's this, and two of us were like, yes, it absolutely is, and two other people were like, no way, that's the dumbest thing ever, there's no way that game would make it that way, and it ended up being that way. So it was this big stand up and cheer moment. But
and I mean, everything this game tries to do, like make a good story, it doesn't. Make interesting decisions, it doesn't. Immerse you, it doesn't. Be fun, it ain't.
Yeah, it's fun the first couple times.
She likes it more than me. I think she still does.
It's fun the first couple times, but I had the same kind of hope that it would pick up and kind of tick those boxes of a little better of a game.
Maybe someday this system could be good. I could see it. The bare bones are here. I wish they would come out with a new game that's a play on this, but make it way more complex. Okay. I know part of the joy of this is that it's simple, but you can give us items that do more than just one use discard thing.
Or difficulty settings so
Make
that
it
you
difficult.
can pick it.
Kill somebody. I know it sounds crazy, but do it, and then have the game end and different win conditions, different stories. Have mini games in the people. Just throw twists in there. You know, have the game do things that you don't expect because it's very predictable.
More variation in the events within a storyline, and also the goals, because the goals, like we said, are pretty straightforward. On you're collecting 3, sometimes 4
Yeah.
items, people, objectives. It's pretty straightforward. They're kind of similar in a way.
I feel like we've only played like 6 times, and there's maybe a dozen or 14 scenarios right now, something like that. I feel like we've played all 14, and I know if we keep playing, it ain't gonna be much different.
Yeah.
You know, it's really unfortunate because I had really high hopes for this game, and even after the first time we played it, I was like, "Ooh, I hope this is better next time," and it never got there.
Well, and we watched some things where people are saying it's one of the best games they've ever played.
And our friends kind of like it. Like, Leah really likes it.
Yeah. But they didn't play it nearly as much as we did.
No.
So.
All right. So on a 1 to 10, what would you give this game?
5.
A 5? I would give this game a 2.
I'm a little nicer about my ratings.
It's pretty. It's pretty. It looks the part. The components are fun. Yeah. It's the mechanisms are mechanisms, but it just isn't any fun.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wanted to like it. Love the company. I think it looks the part. Everybody who I watched review it before I bought it said it was great, so I did, and I drank the Kool-Aid. So anyway, that's it. Destinies.
Yep.
Boo.